I'll be the first one to admit it. I think I got this one wrong. Last July, Netflix announced to their investors that they'd be getting into gaming, and they'd be putting an emphasis on mobile. All existing Netflix subscribers and new would get access to these games just by having the subscription. But up to that point, all Netflix had really done with gaming were a couple of Stranger Things tie-ins and I guess if you could consider Bandersnatch. So obviously, what were they going to release? In my head, it was going to be, I don't know, something like a Queen's Gambit chess game and some kind of dating show tie-in. Okay, so I wasn't entirely wrong, but there's way more to it. For the first 6 months or so after they officially launched, that's kind of what we got. We got a couple of Stranger Things tie-ins, a cat-themed Match 3, a goofy basketball physics game, a bowling endless runner, and we got standard mobile affair. And that's not to say that first crop of games was bad. I mean, they generally have some pretty good reviews and have an exclusive version of Asphalt, and people really like that series. The Endless Runner and the basketball game are also both well received in the App Store, but they just weren't very interesting. But then in May, things started to change. They released a mobile version of the popular card game Exploding Kittens, and indie darling Moonlighter showed up. I mean, I personally loved that game on PC, and I played a whole lot more of it on Switch. I didn't necessarily think that it was a mobile pull, but I mean, it works pretty well, and I'm glad it's there. And those are a couple of really good games in addition to the other ones we've already talked about, but I mean, those are just 2 games. That doesn't justify having an entire division, or it doesn't bring people necessarily to Netflix or keep them there because they exist. But then Geek Week happened. We definitely got those tie-in games that I mentioned earlier, but we also got some new games, some new IP from prolific mobile developers. They announced and released Poinpy, a new game from the creator of Downwell, Desta the Memories Between, a new strategy game from the team that brought you Monument Valley, and Lucky Luna, an adventure game designed by the team that brought you Alto's Odyssey. Honestly, those 3 games alone were enough to get me kind of excited about Netflix as a publisher. But then they announced the ports. Spiritfarer, Terra Nil, Raji, and Ancient Epic, all 3 of these are games that are very well received on PC and other platforms, and once you combine those 2, the new IP and these ports, you can kind of see a strategy coming from Netflix. Then for me personally, the big one dropped. Into the Breach. Into the Breach is maybe my favorite strategy game of all time. When it came out back in 2018, I thought to myself after a few hours, oh, this would be perfect on my iPad. And I was certain it would come out too, and they had just recently gotten a port of their other game, FTL, brought to iPad, and it was great. Little did I know it would take 4 years and the help of Netflix to finally bring it to mobile, and I was right. It is fantastic, and I've been playing a whole lot on my Fold. At this point, I'm in. Netflix has got me. I can't see myself canceling my subscription because I'd lose Into the Breach in my pocket. And honestly, if I didn't have it already, I'd probably sign up for it just to get it. But that's just me and a relatively small community that really loves this game. They still haven't had a justification for this division until this week. Originally released on PC in April of last year, Before Your Eyes tells the story of a man who has recently died, and he's reviewing the memories of his life. It's played in the first person with a often very narrow field of view. The key mechanic is your phone's camera is tracking your eyes, and every time you blink, that memory you're watching ends. This leads to some devastatingly evocative moments where all I want to do is soak in the narrative or the atmosphere or the music, but my time is cut short because of an unexpected blink. I don't want to talk much more about the game itself because it's truly unique and an experience I think everyone should try. And just like that, Netflix has that compelling reason to sign up for Netflix to play a game. Something that they have not been able to do up until this point, up until this week. And they did it. Before Your Eyes is a triumph of an experience, and it is one that you should play, and you should consider signing up for Netflix to experience it, because it's perfect on mobile. And once you finish it, you can go give Moonlighter a try. It's fantastic. Or Into the Breach, or play Exploding Kittens with your friends. Soon you'll be able to play Spiritfarer, or Immortality, the new game by Her Story's creator Sam Barlow, and Desta, and Lucky Luna, and if you want to, that Queen's Gambit chess game. It honestly is starting to feel like Netflix is doing Apple Arcade better than Apple is. If they can keep up this cycle of porting indie darlings and sprinkle in a couple of really big new IPs, I think they've got a recipe for success. So Netflix, if you're listening, here's a short list of games that I think you should prioritize to bring to mobile next. Inscription, Monster Train, A Short Hike, Undertale, Kentucky Route Zero, and Vampire Survivors. But that's just my short list. There are hundreds of excellent games that are available on Steam right now that would translate well to mobile. So let me know in the comments which ones you want to see next. Also, please consider subscribing. It genuinely helps out the channel and lets us grow and keep making more videos like this. Also, if you haven't checked it out yet, we started a podcast called TechCast. It's a weekly podcast where we discuss the headlines along with a big topic that we think is going to change the industry. You can check that out every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. In addition, we launched a Patreon that'll support both this channel and the podcast. We got some cool ideas for it. We're going to do some polls that'll determine what we review, questions you can ask that we'll answer on the podcast. Eventually, we plan on doing giveaways. Your donations will help us purchase products that we don't get review units for, so once we're done reviewing them, we're going to give them away to our patrons. Also, I haven't talked about Useless Apparel in a while. We just launched a new design in the shop. I'll leave links in the description for the podcast, the Patreon, and that new design called the Penny. Anyway, that does it for us this week. I've been Jake, and I can't wait to talk to you in the next one.